Let's talk about something that confuses a lot of people, especially teens and young adults just beginning to learn about sex and reproductive health. Can you get pregnant from pre-cum? It's a question that shows up in search bars, forums, and even health classes around the world. Some say yes, some say no, and others don't know what to believe. In today's video, we're cutting through the myths and breaking down the real science behind pre-ejaculate, pregnancy risk, and what you really need to know to stay informed and protected. First, let's define what we're talking about. Pre-cum or pre-ejaculate is a clear fluid that comes out of the penis during sexual arousal before ejaculation. It's released by the Cooper's glands, also known as bulbourethral glands, and its primary purpose is to help lubricate the urethra and neutralize acidity in preparation for ejaculation. Most people don't even notice it, but it can appear during foreplay or right before orgasm. Now here's where it gets tricky. Many people believe that pre-cum is harmless, that because it's not actual semen, it doesn't contain sperm, and therefore it can't cause pregnancy. But this is where science gives us a more complicated and frankly more cautious answer. While pre-cum itself doesn't originate in the testes and isn't supposed to contain sperm, studies have shown that it can carry live sperm cells, especially if the person has recently ejaculated and hasn't urinated since. Let's break that down a bit. After ejaculation, sperm can remain in the urethra, the tube that runs through the penis. When arousal begins again and pre-cum is released, it may pick up some of those leftover sperm cells on its way out. If this pre-cum enters the vagina and if those sperm are still viable, they can potentially fertilize an egg. While the risk is lower compared to full ejaculation, it's not zero. In fact, a study published in the journal Human Fertility found that some men had motile sperm in their pre-ejaculate, meaning sperm that were alive and capable of swimming. Not all men do, and not in every instance. But since you can't know in advance whether your pre-cum contains sperm, it's a risk that should be taken seriously if you're trying to avoid pregnancy. Let's also talk numbers. While it's difficult to pinpoint an exact percentage, some estimates suggest that about 4 in 100 women will become pregnant in a year if they rely on the withdrawal method alone, also known as pulling out before ejaculation. That means 96 out of 100 couples may avoid pregnancy, but 4 won't, and pre-cum is a part of why that failure rate exists. Some people might ask, but if he pulls out before he finishes, isn't that safe enough? And the answer is not really. While pulling out reduces the risk, it doesn't eliminate it. Withdrawal is not a reliable method of birth control, especially for people who are young, inexperienced, or not paying close attention. Plus, timing it perfectly every time is difficult, and pre-cum may already have been released long before the moment of climax. Now you might be wondering, is there anything that can reduce the risk of sperm in pre-cum? Yes, urinating after ejaculation can help flush out remaining sperm from the urethra. So if a person ejaculates, urinates, and then engages in sexual activity again later, the chances of sperm being present in the next round of pre-cum are lower. But even this method isn't foolproof, because there's no guarantee that all sperm will be cleared out. Let's look at this from another angle. What if you're using condoms? Great question. Condoms, when used properly, are extremely effective at preventing pregnancy, and they're also a barrier to pre-cum. This is one of the biggest advantages of condoms. They offer protection throughout the entire sexual experience, not just at the end. If a condom is put on before any genital contact and used correctly, the risk of pregnancy from pre-cum becomes extremely small. Now, if you're not using a condom and you're not on any other form of birth control, relying on withdrawal is risky. There are many more effective forms of contraception, like birth control pills, IUDs, implants, patches, and shots, that can offer much better protection. Some people use these along with condoms for extra safety, which is also a great way to reduce the risk of sexually transmitted infections, STIs. Speaking of which, let's not forget another important point. Pre-cum can transmit STIs. Even if there's no ejaculation, infections like chlamydia, gonorrhea, HIV, and herpes can still be passed through genital fluids. So even if pregnancy isn't your main concern, protecting yourself from infections is another reason to use condoms or other barrier methods. So to recap, can you get pregnant from pre-cum? The answer is yes, it's possible, though the risk is lower than with full ejaculation. Pre-cum may contain sperm, especially if the person hasn't urinated since the last ejaculation. Relying on withdrawal or just being careful is not a reliable form of birth control. If you're trying to avoid pregnancy, the safest route is to use condoms or another proven method of contraception every time. Now let's quickly bust a few common myths that lead people to underestimate this risk. Myth 1. If there's no penetration, there's no pregnancy. Fact. Pregnancy can occur even without full penetration if precum or semen comes into contact with the vaginal opening. Sperm are tiny and very good at finding their way. Myth 2. Precum doesn't contain sperm. Fact: it's true that not all precum contains sperm, but some does. And you can't tell just by looking. It only takes one sperm to fertilize an egg. Myth 3. Pulling out is a safe birth control method. Fact: withdrawal has a high failure rate. It's better than nothing, but far less reliable than condoms or hormonal methods. Myth 4. You can tell when precum is released. Fact: many people don't even notice when precum comes out. It can happen early during arousal and may go unnoticed. If you're sexually active and not ready for pregnancy, now is the time to talk to a doctor, visit a clinic, or do more research on reliable birth control methods. Education and protection go hand in hand, and no question is too small or too embarrassing when it comes to your health. Let's also take a moment to acknowledge how important it is to have open conversations about sexual health. Too many people are left in the dark due to shame, stigma, or lack of access to accurate information. That's why we're here, to answer your questions with real science, not fear or judgment. So the next time someone asks, "Can you get pregnant from precum?" you can confidently say, "Yes, it's possible," and explain why. Protecting yourself starts with being informed. Thanks for watching. If you learned something new, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more science-based sex-positive content. Got more questions you're afraid to ask? Drop them in the comments. We're here to break the silence and share the truth. Until next time, stay safe, stay smart, and stay informed.